Choice is often described as freedom, but psychologically, freedom is not what the brain experiences first. What the mind feels first is exposure. When multiple options are presented, attention splits. Evaluation begins. Possibility expands in every direction at once, and with that expansion comes strain. At the beginning, choices feel neutral. Two paths appear equal. Neither feels urgent. Neither feels emotionally charged. The brain stays relaxed because nothing has been lost yet. Nothing has been excluded. All futures remain intact. But the moment a decision becomes necessary, the experience changes. Once time, pressure, or circumstance forces movement, the brain shifts from exploration into defense. The nervous system interprets the narrowing of options as potential loss, not because anything bad has happened, but because something might be taken away. This is why indecision feels heavier than error. A mistake has boundaries. Ambiguity does not. A wrong choice can be evaluated, adjusted, learned from. Unresolved choice remains open-ended, consuming attention without offering closure. The brain prefers edges. It prefers limits. It prefers something it can react to. That is why people often delay decisions, even when they know delay creates discomfort. The discomfort of waiting feels safer than the finality of choosing. Waiting preserves possibility. Choosing collapses it. Underneath this hesitation is not confusion, but protection. The mind is attempting to prevent regret before it exists. It imagines future disappointment and tries to keep all exits open, believing that openness equals safety. In reality, this openness keeps the nervous system in a constant state of low-level tension. Most people do not realize that prolonged indecision is not neutral. It drains energy, fragments attention, and slowly reshapes mood. Sleep becomes lighter. Focus weakens. Small tasks feel heavier. None of this is dramatic. It accumulates quietly. Choice, before it disappears, feels light. Choice, when it must be made, feels heavy. Not because of consequence, but because the brain equates commitment with loss. Modern environments are built on the assumption that more options increase satisfaction. More products, more paths, more alternatives. But psychologically, satisfaction does not scale with possibility. It fragments under it. When options multiply, comparison intensifies. Each choice is no longer evaluated on its own merit, but against everything else that could have been chosen instead. The mind begins running simulations. If I choose this, what am I giving up? If I choose that, what future disappears? This mental process does not end after the decision is made. It continues afterward in the form of rumination. People replay alternative paths not because they are dissatisfied with the outcome, but because the brain never fully lets go of excluded possibilities. This is why two people can make identical decisions and experience them differently. One commits fully and moves forward. The other keeps one foot in the past, mentally revisiting what might have been. The difference is not confidence. It is closure. The belief that better options must exist somewhere else creates a constant sense of insufficiency. Even good outcomes feel temporary. Even success feels conditional. Satisfaction becomes fragile, easily disrupted by new information or comparison. What appears to be choice anxiety is often identity anxiety. Choosing means defining oneself. It means saying this is who I am rather than this is who I might become. The mind resists that narrowing because identity feels safer when it stays flexible. But flexibility without direction becomes instability. The brain cannot rest in infinite possibility. It needs containment to function efficiently. This is why people sometimes feel relief immediately after making a difficult decision, even before any results appear. The relief does not come from optimism. It comes from cognitive compression. Infinite paths collapse into one. Attention regains focus. Mental noise reduces. The decision may not be perfect. It may even be wrong. But the mind can now move forward instead of outward. There are situations where people say, no matter what I choose, it feels wrong. This feeling is often misunderstood as indecisiveness or lack of clarity. In reality, it usually signals a different problem. Sometimes the available options are incomplete. Sometimes the structure of the choice itself is flawed. When all presented paths violate an internal value, the nervous system reacts with resistance, not because the person is confused, but because the system recognizes a mismatch. This is common in environments where choices are framed narrowly. Two paths are offered, but both lead to outcomes that feel misaligned. The individual is told they are free to choose, yet neither option provides genuine resolution. In these moments, self-blame often replaces system awareness. People assume something is wrong with them. They search for better reasoning, better motivation, better discipline. What they are missing is a possibility that the question itself is incomplete. Psychologically, forced choice triggers stress because it removes agency while preserving responsibility. The person feels accountable for the outcome without feeling fully in control of the process. Over time, repeated exposure to this pattern creates learned helplessness around decision-making. People stop trusting their judgment. They either avoid choices altogether or make them impulsively to escape discomfort. Neither response restores clarity. True resolution does not always come from choosing between existing options. Sometimes it comes from reframing the decision, postponing it strategically, or creating a third path that was not initially visible. But this requires patience, and patience is difficult when the nervous system is already activated. Understanding this distinction is critical. Not every difficult choice requires immediate commitment. Some require structural change before commitment becomes healthy. Many decisions feel personal, but are subtly guided by external design. The way options are presented influences behavior more than most people realize. A question framed as "would you like to add more?" produces different responses than "would you like to remove this?" Even when the outcome is identical, the emotional weight shifts. Addition feels optional. Removal feels like loss. This is not manipulation in the dramatic sense. It is cognitive alignment. The brain reacts faster to perceived loss than an abstract gain. When something is framed as already possessed, its removal feels threatening. This mechanism appears in everyday environments: menus, subscriptions, packages, interfaces. The individual believes they are choosing freely, but the structure nudges behavior in predictable ways. What makes this powerful is not coercion, but invisibility. People rarely notice the frame. They only feel the impulse. The danger arises when individuals mistake this impulse for preference. They believe they want something when they are actually responding to loss aversion. Over time, this erodes trust in one's own decisions. Awareness restores balance. When people recognize that discomfort does not always signal desire, they regain control. They pause. They reassess. They choose more deliberately. Choice becomes lighter when its psychological triggers are understood. Freedom does not require infinite options. It requires alignment between action and value. When individuals reduce choices intentionally, they often experience more stability, not less. By narrowing focus, they protect attention. By committing, they conserve energy. This does not mean eliminating flexibility. It means deciding in advance which decisions deserve repetition and which deserve limitation. Clothing, food, schedules, small constraints free cognitive resources for larger decisions. Commitment simplifies identity. It reduces constant self-evaluation. It allows growth through consistency rather than constant comparison. Regret may still appear. Doubt may resurface. But these emotions are localized. They pass. Unresolved choice, by contrast, spreads. It affects mood, sleep, and self-perception. The goal is not perfect choice. The goal is sustainable direction. Clarity emerges not from finding the best possible option, but from fully inhabiting the option chosen.